Hi, welcome back to another drawing video. If you're new here, thank you for checking out this video. I'm Siobhan and this channel is where I post videos every week related to drawing, specifically drawing the figure and using expressive dynamic drawing techniques. So if you're interested in that, stay tuned and consider subscribing and giving this video a like if you think it's worthwhile. Today, I wanted to share with you a quick drawing that I made earlier this week. This is a very loose portrait sketch. I wouldn't even go so far as to call it a finished portrait at all. It's just a loose study based on photo reference from unsplash.com. So I thought I'd share this with you and talk a little bit about how I approach making a portrait study when I don't necessarily rely on a template or a formula to do so. My overall approach is just really explorative and sort of investigative rather than trying to achieve an exact likeness. So I hope you enjoyed the video and please leave a comment below if you've got any questions or thoughts or want to share your own perspective about drawing from photo and trying to just draw in a loose gestural way. When I first start out, I really begin very lightly just to block in the overall shape and block in the areas of shading and shadow. So here I'm just shading in where I think the area of the eyes is going to be. And one thing that I do want to establish right away is the angle of the eyes and the angle of the nose. You can think of this as a kind of a cross in the face, and the direction of this cross is going to determine the angle of the whole head. So that's a good idea to get that down first. Really, I want to get kind of a large overall understanding of where the areas of dark and light are, as well as trying to understand where the specific landmarks of the face are, such as the nose and eyes. Then what I do is loosely block in the forehead. Now I tend to usually not give enough room to the forehead, and I usually make the top of the head look really squashed. So I should nearly always err on the side of more room for the forehead. There are many ways of drawing the head. Most people like to follow what I call a template, in that you can precisely measure the distance between, say, the eyes, for example, or draw cubes and circles to construct the head in perfect proportion. But the reason that I don't like to do that is because I find that I end up with a very generic looking drawing. And so this exercise here, what I'm doing here, is just really more about trying to make, or I should say trying to train my mark making and my observation to be more in sync and to make a drawing that's actually based on my visual response rather than on, let's say, a calculated design. Even though it's all loose and intuitive, I still want to hit the landmarks of the face as correctly as I can. So for example, I do need to find where the ear is, make sure it's in the right place in relation to the eyes and the mouth, or the bottom of the nose. And then I'll follow the line along the jaw, around to the chin. At a certain point, I'm always tempted to dial down into the details and to try to draw properly in inverted commas, rather than staying just in loose shading. But for me, it's never really a good idea to do that. So what I'm trying to do here is just to stick to this loose shading technique for as long as I can. One benefit of this is obviously that, things can move, you can change things and correct things much more easily. When it comes to drawing the mouth, that's another feature that I am usually tempted to try and draw as I think it should be. And so to avoid doing that, I just have to concentrate on drawing the shadows or the dark areas. At this stage, I've got pretty much the whole head worked out and I think it's looking okay, and so I just keep going. There's nothing that looks majorly off, so it's possible maybe to get a bit more detailed at this stage and start to draw a little bit of those finer details. But all I'm doing here, and really for the rest of the drawing, is if I had to distill it down, I'm just trying to draw the dark areas. I think for me anyway, if I can identify and draw my darks, and by that I mean the areas of shadow and the areas of really, really dark shading, then the features sort of come together by themselves. So that's my approach anyway. Looking back at this video now, I can see where I should have probably stopped the drawing. I think I did go a bit too far and I could have actually left it a few stages back. Sometimes though, adding in the details, you can really overdo it and move past a point where the drawing is actually just fine. But you know, what can you do? I don't really mind in a way that it's a little bit wonky. To me, that's okay. I like a drawing that shows some missteps or some corrections even, and maybe even some parts that don't work, if the overall piece still has a kind of cohesiveness, which I think this drawing does. I mean, I think it turned out okay. There seems to me anyway to be a kind of a certain look in this guy's face that's interesting, that I wouldn't have captured if I had, you know, spent so much time making sure that the details were exactly correct. Even if the nose or the mouth isn't quite right, I still think that the overall look of this suggests something, or maybe something that we can read into the way that he's looking. So thank you so much for sticking with me to the end. I hope you found this video interesting and that you kind of get an idea of how to approach drawing portrait study without having to rely too heavily on a constrictive template. Consider giving this video a like if you think it's worthwhile, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.